Good morning, my students. I'm Miss Tania Poveda. Welcome to my language class. Remember to have with you a pen or a pencil and a notebook or a folder so you can take notes. Today we're going to focus on the present perfect continuous, but we need to talk a little bit about the present perfect tense too. That's why I chose this, present perfect continuous versus the present perfect tense. Do you remember that we already talked about the present perfect tense? Yes, we have already learned how to use the present perfect tense. I mean the present perfect simple. Let's continue. So I have a question for you. Which one is correct? I have lived in Moscow for 10 years, or I have been living in Moscow for 10 years. So which one, the first one or the second one? Which one is grammatically correct? Okay, I'll tell you later. Next, which one is correct? I have worked as a teacher for more than 15 years, or I have been working as a teacher for more than 15 years. The first one or the second one? What do you think? Okay, I'll show you the answer. And probably you were right. All of them were correct. I'm going to explain later the difference between present perfect simple and continuous. But right now it's very important that don't worry if you say, I've lived in Guayaquil for 14 years, or I have been living in Guayaquil for 14 years. Don't worry too much about that. In that case, it's correct. I want you to pay attention on these verbs right now. Live and work. Live and work. Okay? Those are verbs that you use a lot, like pretty common, because they are talking about habitual situations. We'll see about that in the next slide. Okay? Okay, so here we have, I have been living in Moscow for 10 years. I have been working as a teacher for more than 15 years. Other examples. She has been going to this cafe for many years. I don't know if you can see that she's having coffee. And he has been playing tennis since he was a child. Okay, why are we using continuous here? Present perfect continuous. Okay, let's go to the left here. And this is the explanation. Repeated actions, situations, or states that still happen. Still happen. The present perfect continuous. She has been going to this cafe for many years, so she's probably at the cafe right now at that precise moment. He has been playing tennis since he was a child. We are emphasizing or focus on the duration. You see, for many years since he was a child. So we are focused on duration. And here, we can say, grammatically, we can say, she has gone, you see, no continuous here. She has gone to this cafe for many years, or he has played tennis since he was a child. What it is important here is the result, the fact, the outcome. You see? So here, the fact is that she goes to that cafe. And she has gone to that cafe. And here that he has played tennis, that he plays tennis. These are facts. In this case, we're emphasizing on how long. And I want you to go back. Let's go back to this slide because I didn't read the blue chart on purpose. Here we have the duration of usual or habitual activities. Remember I read this like live and work before in the other on the other slide here? Okay, because we are emphasizing on the duration of those activities. You got it? No problem, we can continue with more examples. Well, here, what I like about this is that in both cases, present perfect simple and continuous, you can use for and since, exactly the same way. So for is going to tell you how long something lasts, and since is going to tell you the starting point or starting from. It's exactly the same use, exactly the same way we use for and since in present perfect simple. Okay? How we compose, how do we write, how do we speak in present perfect continuous? Well, this is the way we do it. We have the pronoun, we have auxiliary have or has. Being is going to be always the same, always. You're always going to use this, okay? And the verb in ing. We have been calling ing verbs for years. Just to remember, they are present participle, okay? So next time you see or you hear present participle, remember it's ing verbs. Yes, they have a name. Okay. So what do you need? Pronoun, I, you, we, they, he, she, it. Have. When do you use have, by the way? With he, she, it? Or with I, you, we, they? Good. With I, you, we, they. Been is always the same, as you can see in both sentences. And ing verbs. And obviously the complement. Okay? So here we have, I have been living, you have been living, we, you, they have been living. You can see all of these sentences with have. Have for plural and for I. For me, for I. Okay. And has for he, she, and it. You see? It's pretty much the same we've been using as a possessive. But in this case, have and has are working as auxiliaries. So how can we write the negative form? Very easy. Have not, has not. That's it. I have not been living. You have not been living. We, you, they have not been living. He, she, it has not been living. You see, it's pretty easy. Can you contract this and say I haven't? Can you do that? Can you say you haven't? They haven't? Can you say he hasn't? It hasn't? Let's see. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. When you are speaking, you can contract words. So it's going to sound better. It's going to sound more comfortable for the speaker and for the listener. I haven't. And she hasn't. It's also faster when you speak. Okay, let's continue. So this is Mary, and I have known Mary for many years. Can I say I have been knowing Mary for many years? I have been knowing Mary for many years. Can you say that? No, right? And why not? First of all, because when you speak, it doesn't sound too good, right? So if we pause the video right now and I ask you to read for you, I have known Mary for many years, and I have been knowing Mary for many years. Which one sounds better for you? This one, the first one, right? But the reason is because we're using the verb know. And why is that? I mean, why is know that special? And then we have understand, like, love, belong, appear, need, and others. Why are they so special? It's because they are stative verbs. Stative verbs, as you can see here in the red light, stative verbs. So when we are using stative verbs, we use present perfect simple. What's the meaning of stative verbs? They're telling you a state. They're telling you what's going on in your head or your heart. Okay, they're like very deep verbs. So usually you don't say, oh, I have been understanding the class. You know, first it doesn't sound good. I have been understanding Miss Tanya, or I haven't been understanding Miss Tanya. You don't say like that. It doesn't sound good. Grammatically, it's not correct either. So we say, I have understood. Okay? Let's continue. Okay, she has just entered the room. She has just entered the room. She opened the door and she has just entered. Can I say she has been just entering the room? She has been just entering the room. Is that correct? Yes or no? No. She has just entered the room is correct, and it's the only way you say that. You never say she has been entering the room, because how many times did she enter the room? Only one, right? And she did it just a second ago, 1 minute ago. That is in the case of these verbs, instant actions. And I love this word instant. Okay, short. You can say also short actions that they didn't last too long, but my favorite word is instant. Something that happened like that, very, very fast. So she was not entering the room. She has, you can say she has been entering, because otherwise in my head, I can imagine this woman open and closing the door like many, many times and trying to get into the room. Okay, and that's not normal. Okay, let's continue. Oh, no. Here in the blue chart, I have some examples of these instant actions or short actions. Like come. How many times you come to a place? One. Yeah, of course, if you go every day, it's like you. But how many times you do it a day? Maybe only one. Enter, drop, fall. And this is very funny because every time I use examples with fall or falling, it's like you're walking on the street and then it's not like you see someone falling on the floor, right? Like falling and falling one and again and again. No, it's only one. Open and close and other verbs. Remember, instant actions. In that case, you use only present perfect simple. Like this, she has just entered the room. Is that okay? So I'm trying to make a comparison between present perfect simple and present perfect continuous. I have never traveled to India. Can I say I have never been traveling to India? This is like very easy, because when you use or when you want to use ever, or ever for questions, or never for denying something, every time you use ever or never, you are going to need to use present perfect. Like I have never traveled to India, or I have never gone to the moon, or I have never tried coffee. Things like that. Every time you use never or ever, think immediately present perfect simple. That's it. The short one. Okay? Because it's not an action that you've been doing, or in this case, don't do. Yeah, not doing like for many times. It doesn't sound good either. Okay, so apparently she was doing exercise, right? And he's like, oh, you're out of breath. How long have you been running? How long have you been running? Apparently, she just stopped running. And she answered 40 minutes non-stop. So how long has she been running? 45 minutes. And during those 45 minutes, she didn't stop. Oh, look at this beautiful dog. So he's asking, oh, it's such a mess. What have you been doing here? And he said, just cooking. So I've been just cooking. Why is that? Why is that? Because let's go to the blue chart here, down. The emphasis is on duration or process. Duration, like 45 minutes running, or process, the cooking process in the case of the dog example. And the speaker may be showing her surprise, anger, or any other emotion relating to the situation. Let's go back to this one. So the guy is surprised, like, oh, it is such a mess. It's surprised, right? And the dog, what happened? The dog has been cooking. That's the process. That was the process before the mess in the kitchen. So as you can read here, this is the situations when we use the present perfect continuous. The good news is that we don't use it for many things, so don't worry. And the other good news is that sometimes you can use both present perfect continuous or present perfect simple. So if you're not sure about which one to use, I will go for the one that sounds better. Okay, so trust in your ear, trust in your knowledge, and follow your heart in case you are not sure. Well, so what do they have in common? This one, how long have you been running? I have been running for 45 minutes. It is such a mess. What have you been doing here? I have been cooking. What do they have in common? Here, blue words. They are activities that have stopped recently. So the woman had just stopped running and the dog had just stopped cooking. You see? So every time you hear something that just finished, like right now, and you're surprised or anger or happy or sad or whatever about that situation, you are going to use present perfect continuous. Got it? Okay. How do you think we can write questions or we can make questions with present perfect continuous? How to make questions? Tell me. Okay. I know you know. And this is the way we do it. Before we said, I have been running. But for a question, you switch the place. That's why I draw these lines here. And for a question, you say, have I? Have I been running? Before you said, you have been running. You have here. You have here. But for a question, you switch. Have you been running? Let's continue with have, here on the right. Before we said, you have been running. But for questions, we say, Have you been running? So we switch the auxiliary with the pronoun. If you are using have or has, it's going to be the same rule. So before we said she has been running. For a question we say, has she been running? You switch. Again, switch. You put this one here and this one here. Has she been running? And don't forget the question mark. And here we have other examples for questions when we can use present perfect continuous. How long have you been learning English? How long have you been living in this city? So it means that you can use present perfect continuous with W questions or information questions. Do you remember those information questions or W questions? I'm going to help you. Why, when, where, what, who, how. Hopefully I'm not forgetting anything. So to summarize what we are studying today, let's sum it up like this. Oh my God, that's too much to read. Okay, let's read only the black letters here, okay? Only this. I know it's like a lot, but here it's situations when we can use both present perfect simple and continuous. Remember this? I've lived in Moscow. I have been living in Moscow. So what do they have in common? They are habitual or permanent situations. Other verbs that you can use for habitual or permanent situations. Any idea? Well, here we have some examples. Play, go, etc. Let's go here down. She has been going to this cafe, duration, or she has gone to this cafe, fact. So if you want to emphasize on duration, you can use present perfect continuous. If you want to emphasize on facts, you use present perfect simple. That's it. Oh, here on the left, repeated activities. That's the main idea of this paragraph. So these are cases when we can use both present perfect simple and present perfect continuous. Now, can you see what I did with the title? Yes, I did it on purpose. Okay, I crossed down this, so we're not going to pay attention to that. When only present perfect continuous is possible. So you never use present perfect, but you always use present perfect continuous when unfinished action, and it is important that it is going on now. For example, they have been writing the test for 2 hours. So let's suppose that you have a test with me right now, and you are writing and writing, and I'm like, okay, guys, finish. And then someone asks me like, hey, what's going on with your students? And I say, I don't know. They have been writing the test for 2 hours. So it means the action is currently working in that precise moment. So it hasn't stopped yet. And the other way that you use present perfect continuous, I never use present perfect, is that when you focus on duration. And often they are the answers for questions like how long and not how much. Like how long have you been living in Paris? Oh, I have been living in Paris for 20 years. So how long have you been running? I have been running for 45 minutes. So remember, every time it's an action that is still happening, and every time you are asking like how long, make sure that you are going to use present perfect continuous. Have plus been plus ing. Okay, I hope I'm not speaking too fast, but I just get enthusiastic. And this is some extra information. 4 tips on present perfect continuous. 4 tips. So we keep summarizing the content right now. Tip number 1. You don't use present perfect continuous with state or stative verbs. What are you going to use with these verbs? This one, present perfect simple. Examples of state or stative verbs: know, belong, exist, love, like. Okay? I'm going to include a list of these verbs here in the link so you can read them and remember them. Example, I've belonged to this group since May, or I belonged to UEBLI since I was a child. Can you say I've been belonging to this group since May? Listen to me. I've been belonging to this group since May. Can I say that? It doesn't sound good, right? And you don't use it like that. Remember, because belong is a state verb. I've known him for 20 years. Can I say I have been knowing him? No, because it's a state verb. Let's continue. Okay, when do we use present perfect continuous? With action verbs. In other words, those that are not stative. So if you remember stative verbs, any other verb is action. And remember that action means movement. So when you play, when you live, when you run, when you eat, you are in an action verb. You are in action, you are moving. Okay. 3, action that has just stopped. The action was in progress for some time. The action stopped at a short time ago. You are able to observe and comment on the result of that action. And I have a picture here. So what do you think he was doing? The guy on the left. So someone was knocking the door. Apparently it's a UPS or any delivery company. He probably ordered something in Amazon. I don't know, I'm making up that part. So he didn't open the door immediately and he says, sorry, my hands are dirty. I've been working in the garden. Can you tell that he's coming back to work to the garden when the other guy leave? Probably, because he just stopped working on the garden to come here and open the door. So I've been working in the garden because he was in an action that is probably going to continue after this little interruption. This is another example. Okay, why are your eyes red? Have you been crying? Remember that we were talking about surprise, anger, happiness, about feelings like, oh my God, what have you been doing? So apparently this guy, he has eye reds, and this other person is asking, okay, why are your eyes red? What is the action that probably was he doing? Have you been crying? He's probably going to say, yeah, I have been crying all morning. I have been crying the whole night, etc. Because cry is an action verb. And tip number 4, and this is kind of curious because the thing is like, can you use negative sentences? Not always. It depends. And these are the 2 examples of the 2 situations when you can use negative present perfect continuous. When you want to emphasize on something else, like I haven't been studying math, but science. So I have been studying science. So I want to emphasize that I've been studying science and that I haven't been studying math. So you see, I want to emphasize on this. Another one, I haven't been feeling too well today. I haven't been feeling too well. In other words, I have been feeling good. Oh, sorry, no. I have been feeling good, bad. Yeah. So I want to emphasize that. I don't want to say, oh, I felt bad. I don't want to say that. I want to say, yeah, I haven't been feeling too well. Okay, so you don't want to be too dramatic and said, I have been feeling bad. You want to be kind of polite and positive. So you say, oh, I haven't been feeling too well. So in other words, it's like to soften the situation, to make it look like less negative. So when you want to emphasize, when do you use in negative sentences? When you want to emphasize on something else that you've been doing, or when you want to say something in a nicer way. You want to say it in a positive way. And that's it. That's everything for today. We already know the difference between present perfect simple and present perfect continuous. Of course, we're going to work on some exercises. So we will have the opportunity to review and to practice, because it's very important we practice so we can learn and remember and use it correctly. Thank you very much for your attention. See you next week. Bye-bye.